biggest trend right now that we're seeing is automation and how that's impacting the job market. A Deloitte report came out last year and it says that for Europe, there'll be about 13 million jobs that become automated. In the world, it's 95 million jobs will become automated. But then on the other side, there's 107 jobs that will become new jobs because of automation. So my question to those listening is, what side do you want to be on? The future of work is here, and it's how quickly are people going to be meeting that change? You need to innovate or you'll be left behind. One thing automation can't do right now is be empathetic or easily build human connection trust. What are the roles that really leverage that? Get yourself into the mind of the recruiter. Their issue is there are more applications to jobs. So you need to make it easy for them to spot you and identify that you're a candidate. Sending long CVs and cover letters just does not do that. You need to get a video. You need to make yourself personable.
You're not defined by where you come from.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big message that I always want to tell people.
Like you have to be able to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
When you grow up in ends, you don't realise it when you're confident, but you have an audacity to do things that ordinarily most people wouldn't be willing to do.
Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I'm your host, Atto. We have a special guest in the building, Vera, who is an award-winning consulting professional and accredited transformation coach with 6+ years experience across digital transformation, B2B sales, account management, and management consultant. She is an avid entrepreneur. She founded Career Confident, a community platform to empower career professionals. How are you doing today, Vera?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. You've been very busy today, right?
I have. I had women conference here. I had some coaching sessions. So
wow, today as well.
I like to make the most out of my weekend.
Oh my gosh, on a Saturday.
Yes.
That's crazy.
I'm so happy to do it. Honestly, it's my ministry.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so obviously I gave a little bit of a brief of who you are. Who would you say Vera is?
I mean, I'm going to say that question is so deep. That is a deep question. But above all, I actually want to say I'm a child of God. Hallelujah. Amen.
Amen.
I guess professionally, I am a consultant. So I've had a number of years across different industries, particularly starting my career. Actually, I started my career in the legal world. So I worked at different corporate legal firms like Clifford Chance. And then I went on to do the whole finance thing because at my university, everyone was doing spring weeks and internships in finance. And I was like, what is finance?
Yeah.
When I was in finance, I worked at some of the bulge brackets like Barclays and HSBC. And then I went on to explore tech because tech was booming and tech was impacting everything. So I've been across a number of industries and now I'm leveraging all of that as a fintech consultant. And I'm also, of course, a career coach, an accredited one. I have 2 certifications. Like I said, coaching's my ministry. And through Career Confident, really what I'm hoping to do is empower early and mid-career professionals to be more confident in transforming their uncertainty into accessing that next level in their career.
I love that. It's so fantastic. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I think it's going to be so valuable for people. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about your story. Where are your parents from?
So I'm Nigerian. Big up. Of course. I feel
Nigeria,
like everyone's Nigerian, but I
don't say
you're
that.
Nigerian, actually.
I'm Nigerian, yeah, of course.
See?
Yeah, no, but not only Nigeria. I'm a Nigerian Sierra Leone. I got to bring my Sierra Leone heritage into it as well. And were you born in Nigeria or the UK?
No, I was born in the UK, but I did have some time in Germany. So that was
okay, that's interesting. Germany,
a bit. So my dad came here as a missionary actually. So he came here and he came to Germany, Dortmund specifically, and set up a Bible college and then actually set up his own church, which is now kind of a mega church. It has 5 different churches across Germany. And then
interesting.
Yeah, and then we came here because, well, the truth is the opportunities were much better for Black people in the UK than in Germany. So we came here since I was born, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. So what was Germany like for you when you were growing up in that time that you had?
Yeah, to be honest, I think for me, I wasn't there that long. So I was there officially 3 years of my life. It's a very vague experience, but I went back and forth, right? So I'd go maybe every year, every couple times in a year. again, like I said, the big thing that was stuck was there was like no opportunities for Black people. And particularly when it came to careers, the highest level of career there for a Black person, maybe, I don't know, maybe cleaning or bus driving. So quite civil service. Yeah.
Okay.
And beyond that, like corporate roles or those higher paying or high skill roles, no. Like
Wow.
you'd have to move out of the country to really do that. So my dad and my mum saw that and thought, how can we bring up our 3 children here? We need to go where there's actually going to be opportunities. So I definitely feel like that's pushed me to why I'm so passionate about what I'm passionate about
Okay, yeah.
in helping others to also access the career they want.
It's crazy, like how like you've identified that, and I think yeah, that makes sense, right? Like you
Yeah.
said, like it's
Yeah.
all like all linked together. That's crazy. So okay, so you moved to the UK. Whereabouts in the UK did you grow up?
So I have always been an East London girl.
East,
so
okay,
shout out to
yes.
East London.
Shout out to East London.
Shout out to East London. Honestly, yeah. So I've always been in East London, and we moved to East London because my dad has a church here. So yeah, born and raised in the church is my story, and very interesting living in East London, right? Because East London has Canary Wharf,
Yeah.
and then not Canary Wharf. That's the way I can put it. And if I
Basically.
attribute in terms of the pinnacle of wealth, I guess, or the foundation of wealth, you have wealth and not wealth in East London, and it's so stark. It's so stark. I definitely wasn't growing up in the wealthy side, right? But I had that view every time I was going to school or getting my first job. I'd always go past this area and be like, wow, people are really working in these tall buildings. and I wanted to find out more. And that's how I went over to my first internship in law.
Wow. And I guess, what would you say in terms of your upbringing? How has that shaped who you are today?
Yeah, I think it's a deep question. I mean, we're not here to do therapy, right? But I mean, in all fairness, I'm very grateful for my upbringing. I was saying to you offline, you know, that I'm so grateful for actually growing up in the church. It's something that many of us have the privilege to say that we have that background. But for me, I was a pastor's kid, you know, and that has another level of responsibility, leadership, expectations, which, don't get me wrong, many of the pressures I've had to unlearn, I guess. But equally, I'm so grateful to have had that experience to quickly learn how to speak in front of people, quickly take care of others, know the importance of living in your purpose. And my favorite quote, proverb, whatever you name it, is your roots enlighten your roots. And I always think back to the fact that I've been brought up in this way to help me think about my next steps, whether it be in my career, personal, in my business. It's, what is my faith? Like, who am I? What is the journey that God's taken me on? And ultimately that helps guide my next steps.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing. That's amazing. So okay, let's talk a little bit about your career, right? So obviously, offline you told me that you study philosophy at University of Warwick,
Shout out
right?
to
And
Warwick,
I think
yes.
people would not guess after what you've said that you got
Yes,
into that you study
exactly,
philosophy.
exactly.
And then you obviously, you know, you gain experience across a number of different industries. You mentioned corporate law, so firms like Clifford Chance, and then you went to finance, so Barclays and HSBC, and then you went to big tech, Microsoft and Google. So I guess, how did you navigate these industries? Because that's like 3 different industries. Technically, I could say 4
like 4 or
because
5.
philosophy as well,
And
right?
I'm consulting.
Exactly. So, and then which of these opportunities were the most impactful to you and why?
Yeah, no, totally. So that's actually what pulled me to start Career Confident and start my career coaching stream and that area of my life. So for me, the massive thing was knowing my skills. So I'd say let's start with going from philosophy to finance. So in finance, they're looking for people who are very good with data analysis or very good at taking complex information and being able to formulate it in an easier, more simple way, especially for clients. That's exactly what I'm doing with philosophy. You have these very dense books, you know, very difficult literature to pick apart and then have to put it into an essay or some sort, or talk about it in a seminar. So even though I'd not had a, business or finance background, I was able to articulate that skill in order to help me stand out in my finance applications. And that goes across many different skills. And in fact, as we go on in this conversation, I'd like us to definitely talk about that more, because I feel that's what's stopping a lot of people. not recognizing the skills they have and how they are transferable to
Yeah.
any and many industries that they're interested in. So that's what I did. I took the time to understand my skills, and that was then what helped me to pivot across different industries. Obviously, another thing you want to be doing, and what I did was I constantly reflected on what I was learning, and that also does give me a good insight into whether or not I should move. Because if I'm not learning, I mean, as a philosopher, I feel like if you're not learning, you're dying. Like that's a big belief. So if I'm not learning, I need to move. So that also helped me understand where I need to move.
Mm-hmm.
But having that constant learning desire definitely also helped me to stand out, because any firm I'm applying to, okay, I don't know, let's say I want to go into manufacturing. Okay, never been in manufacturing, but I have this background, and these are the backgrounds, skills that I have that can lean me into this industry. And how do I apply myself?
Yeah.
And most importantly, how am I different to the tens and thousands of people that are probably having the same CV and experience? So use your difference to stand out, right? And that's what I did as well.
Okay.
And the most impactful, I think, with that thinking, obviously they all have their different impacts, but I'd say tech is really where it's at in terms of the of course the money is amazing in tech, but also the level of change demands you to be better every day. You cannot afford to not be learning, to not be growing. That's what keeps you going in tech, and that's what equals success. So I really enjoyed that thinking, that growth mindset. They talk about that a lot at Microsoft particularly, and I've applied it throughout my career.
Yeah. And now you work as a consultant,
Yes.
right? I guess talk to us about how that came about.
Yeah. I'd say, to be honest, I mean, it's another industry, but apart from that, I think consulting is all about solving problems. And if you think about my background being a philosopher, I always want to be looking at how to solve problems. Now, if I think about my experience in finance and tech, what I liked about finance is it's such a foundational industry that drives everything, right?
Yeah.
Finance drives everything and it impacts everywhere. Tech is what enables a lot of industries. So the intersection for me was interesting, which is fintech. And that's where I'm now working in. So fintech consulting. So I'm able to solve problems, be at the forefront of change, and also learn about the foundations of business.
That's interesting. That's interesting that you decided that quite early on. What made you understand? Because some people, how do I put this, right? Like when you decided to do philosophy at university, but you very quickly identified, I guess, where in terms of from a career point of view, an area where you wouldn't stagnate, where you would kind of like excel. How did you identify that? Because people are probably thinking about, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit more, but just from your perspective, I just want to understand that a little bit more.
Yeah, the biggest thing is you need to know yourself. That's number one. And in a very social media heavy world, people's biggest issue, and I think the biggest issue we're facing as young people, is not knowing your identity. Now, your identity grounds your value. You need to know yourself. Again, we talked about upbringing. I think that's what's really helped me. I'm very clear about who I am in Christ, right? And who I am and my skills and my strengths. You need to know yourself. You need to then know your value and times that by 10. If you know your identity and value, you can apply yourself to the appropriate industry and role. When you are not doing that, you are being someone you're not actually meant to be. Like, of course, you're going to stagnate. But if you are aligning yourself to where you are meant to be, it's not only easy for you, but you're going to excel.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm, like I said, like, the reason I've moved around is another thing is you have to try. Like, people will spend years thinking, I want to try something, and either never try it or try it at a time where you could have done that 5 years ago. If I'm being honest, what's the difference between starting that tech job tomorrow and starting that tech job in 2 years? You're not going to have really been any better. You only learn when you get on in the role.
Yeah.
So the only difference is time. So you need to put yourself out there. Personally, that's what's helped me. Put yourself out there. If it fails, so what? You move on to the next. It's very important to actually be comfortable being uncomfortable. I've heard that on your podcast, and it's something I encourage people ongoing. But you can't ever expect yourself to get to that next level without doing the jump. So ultimately, try it out and know who you are before you make that jump, right? So you're constantly aligning yourself to the best career choice.
Yeah. I completely agree. I think it's so important, especially I like the fact that you say you have to be yourself and know yourself.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're like somebody else. Like, so for instance, we're going to talk a lot about tech today, but some people might not be aligned for them. And I think you have to
That's
understand that
fine,
very
yeah.
quickly, that if it's not, there's going to be there's so many industries that are doing well.
So many
Do you know what I mean?
industries.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing. It's you have to get out there to even find out what those industries
Yeah.
are. Simply listening and watching videos and read, it's not going to give you that understanding of where you really will find yourself. Like I said, how did I find out about fintech? It was being in both industries.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't me. I would never have thought I would be here.
Yeah.
So you have to put yourself out there. Like you're literally playing yourself by staying at home. So okay, I'm gonna just call out as it is. Like all the people that are out there watching TikToks and YouTubes of day in a life in your dream role. Why don't you do that yourself? Why don't you put yourself out there for that? Get someone to help you and we'll talk about that as well in terms of how to measure your success and how to ensure success. But stop watching the videos. Get yourself out there. Be that person you're watching.
Exactly.
Like seriously.
Exactly. You can be that. Like I think a
You
lot of
can.
people like to live through other people. They're like, oh, this looks cool.
No,
But they
we
don't
need
go to-
TikTok generation is killing
Yeah.
us. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. Absolutely get inspiration. But inspiration only goes so far. That's not going to change your life. You need to
You
actually
need to
act on it.
act on it, right? That's the point of the video, is to help you act on it.
As
then
in,
people don't
there
act.
needs to be next step. I feel like we need more next steps, but like for real, seriously,
Oh,
take
this
that
is the
next step.
We're listening. You're listening to the next step.
I love that.
Okay, so you founded Career Confident 2 years ago. I guess what was the
Yeah.
motivation for you to want to coach people to become more career confident?
Yeah, I think the first thing I'd say as I've started this podcast, it was definitely. I was actually reflecting on the moment I got the revelation, but it was a revelation by God. It is a ministry movement, kingdom movement to be specific. I was actually at church and I was thinking about how do I leverage what I have now to help others? And God put in my heart that you need to encourage people in this area of getting into jobs. And, you know, I started to brainstorm off the back of a offering envelope. Literally, I'm
Okay.
not joking. I finished church, took an offering envelope and was brainstorming like the different ways I've heard people tell me they struggle with their career. And confidence was the number one reason people struggle with their career. So I wanted to meet people at that pain point.
Okay.
And that's what started Career Confident. And like I said, it's such a privilege to do what I do. The amount of impact. So in the last month, I did a survey. It's now 4.5 million in client salaries. So
Yeah,
that equals
That's crazy.
new salaries and pay rises that I've been able to generate in the last 2 years.
Mhm.
It's amazing. And of course, another thing that helped was actually getting my qualification. So that helped me as well. So I've actually trained as a life coach. That's actually a massive thing that differentiates my style of career coaching. I'm thinking about how your career fits in the other areas of your life and how it helps you to move forward in the life you want.
Yeah.
So I really do take people on that end-to-end journey, right? And it's, yeah, like I said, it's such a privilege.
It's nice that you did the life coaching, like you said,
Yeah.
because I think it almost makes you, like, when you are helping people with, you know, their careers, you can think about it a bit more holistically, right? Because your
That's
career
it.
does underpin a lot of, I mean, you spend more time in your job than you do
With your
anything
loved
else,
ones,
right?
sleeping, I think. Sleeping.
Probably,
Most of
yeah,
us.
yeah.
Corporate
Well, yeah,
people.
if you
You're
get
doing
if you're
corporate,
able
if
to
you're
get
doing
8 hours sleep a
entrepreneurial,
night,
You're still
you're
working
lucky.
more hours. You're probably working
Yeah.
more hours. So
Yeah.
again, like your career, like you said, it underpins so much of your life.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want it to align and make sense to the life you want?
Yeah.
Not just doing something to get by. That's what our parents did.
Yeah.
This is
different
what we
for
need
us,
to
yeah.
move forward in doing.
Yeah.
We need to be doing careers that truly are aligning to the life we want and helping us to fulfill a bigger purpose that we feel, whether it be helping people in your role or upskilling others or even just working on a team to make big changes.
Yeah.
Whatever pulls and pushes you, discovering that and making choices in your career to make sure you're actually doing that kind of work, right?
Exactly.
That's what I love doing and helping people to discover.
Love that. So obviously you talked about confidence was one of the things that you noticed that you know, people had a struggle with. But now that after obviously now you've worked with clients for a while now, what other things have you seen that you've seen them struggling with, the actual, you know?
Wow. So I'd say it's interesting because obviously confidence is wide and it underpins almost everything.
Mm-hmm.
I guess more tangibly, what we're seeing is people not upskilling quick enough. That's a number one thing I'm seeing. People struggling to know what's next. Tying those two issues, upskilling and knowing what's next. The third thing is pivoting. So people really struggle to know how to pivot to a new industry, whether it be going from, I don't know, banking to project management. Like they struggle to see how that's possible. I guess the fourth thing, and it goes back to confidence, but people not knowing their value and feeling frustrated as a result of that, which is why I said everything starts with identity.
Okay.
That's definitely those 4 points I'm dealing with every day at the moment.
Wow. And fortunately for the listeners watching this, we're going to cover a few of those
Yes,
areas. Fortunately, I said it was going to be a good episode. Okay, so let's obviously we kind of got to talk about it, because I would have, to be honest with you, I would have thought that the job market itself would have improved. I did have a conversation beginning of the year. Yeah, it was either December or January of this year. I was like, we knew the market was not great at that point. Last year, it wasn't the best towards the end of last year. So I thought, okay, you know what? Getting towards the mid-year, towards the end of the year, it will improve. Things will change. And for some reason, it's just getting worse. It's not
getting worse.
It's not getting better. I don't know why. And how I know is I've got a mentee, and I had a mentee this year from my old university, and I'm comparing the differences between, although last year was bad, it's not as bad as this year. I'm comparing the differences in terms of their ability to get offers, and it's so much, and the expectations are way higher of them, and they're a graduate, and I'm like, this is absolutely, it's quite ridiculous. So what's your opinion on the current job market in the UK, and how do you see things changing in the future, and what are the trends that you're seeing?
Big question, right? So in terms of the current job market, I think my noises, as you were saying, that should say all. It's difficult. I'm not gonna lie. I would compare it to pre-pandemic times. It's so much more difficult. I was actually looking for some data to prove how difficult it was in terms of the percentage difference, but I'll use an estimation based on my experience. I'd say it's probably at the moment at least 35 to 40% more harder to land a role.
Okay. That's kind of significant,
100%.
right? Yeah.
I'm looking at my stats in terms of how quick for me to help someone to getting a role, how much more difficult it's been, or the time it's taken. It's definitely getting worse. What does that mean? It means that people have to innovate. People have to do things that are different. And like you said and alluded to, the trends are there. The biggest trend right now that we're seeing is automation and how that's impacting the job market. And I will say that the biggest, I guess, like thing I'm shouting to my clients is you need to innovate or you'll be left behind. That's the case. When I say innovation, of course, I'm talking about automation, AI, new tech trends coming up, even ways of working as well. Like the future of work is here. Like what people saw as maybe like futuristic, like 3000s, it's now here, and it's how quickly are people going to be meeting that change and not being left behind. That's what I'm seeing, and really having to encourage a lot of people I speak to and others as well. Yeah.
And that's the thing, it's changed so rapidly. I mean, I'm in tech and you're in tech, and I've been in tech like my whole career. So I think I'm used to, when you're in the tech industry, you're slightly ahead anyway. So the whole working from home thing, for a lot of people, when COVID happened, that was quite a new thing for them.
That's so true.
And for me, it was like, I had already been doing that for years. So it wasn't like new, you've got this thing called Zoom, you know. I mean, even before previous iterations, it was Skype at one point. We used to do Skype. And then there was Slack. And then obviously Zoom, and now you've got Teams and all this sort of stuff. Yeah. But what my point is, we were just used to that remote setup when we needed to do it. It wasn't like full time as it is now for like a lot of people, but yeah, maybe Fridays you remotely, Mondays and Fridays remotely, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday you're in the office. That was quite the norm.
It's quite normal.
It wasn't normal for the rest of the world or other areas that wasn't in tech, and then it kind of just changed overnight. So that's what happens sometimes. You just, when you almost can't always prepare, and then you realize, wow, just in a minute things just like that, it just can happen. So yeah, it's it can be quite crazy. So I guess obviously we want people to, you know, navigate this market in a great way, right? What is something that someone can do to best position themselves for landing their next role in this market? Since you say it's, you know, it's that 30 to 40% more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, another thing I'd say some more shocking realities. So,
Okay.
I mean, I'll focus particularly on automation. So, a Deloitte report came out last year, and it says that for Europe, there'll be about 13 million jobs that become automated. In the world, it's 95 million jobs will become automated.
Wow, that's
But then
crazy.
insane. But
Yeah.
then on the other side, there's 107 jobs that will become new jobs because of automation. So
Okay, so more jobs then. Okay,
so that's the thing. So
interesting, yeah.
my question to those listening is, what side do you want to be on? Do you want to be on the risky side of possible job loss, or do you want to be on the side that's innovating themselves enough to meet the change? So that's my main kind of question, and I guess my answer as well. It's you need to be upskilling on high income skills, but particularly skills that will change with tech and automation. So for example, I'll take customer service, probably one of the most impacted industry. How are you position yourself in that industry to not just be doing, I guess, the jobs that, let's say, an automated entity can, but perhaps more of the strategic thinking that will leverage the outputs of these automations? Like you essentially want to be navigating yourself in that way where you're leveraging automation rather than running away from it or using it as an excuse to leave an industry. You need to be innovating within the industry you're in, but also be open to other industries which are fastly growing, fastly being, you know, tech being a great one, moving with the times. Another thing I was reading on my way here was the World Economic Forum says that by 2025 alone, 25 million people will need to upskill in their jobs, like the current jobs they're in. So again, the question I ask is, do you want to wait till then, or do you want to be already ahead of the curve and even putting yourself in front of so many more people? So yeah, I think it's about changing your approach to skills, like building your skills, and ultimately as well the mindset you have towards the changes that not even are coming, the changes that are here.
That's the thing, right? Because like, and I really appreciate what you said, because it's so important, because we spoke again offline about JP Morgan, right? ChatGPT came out last year. Well,
it's booming.
It was built before.
Yeah.
We know it was built before, but in terms of sort of forefront for people,
Use cases,
in terms of people starting to use it last year, right? So a year ago, already reading news articles, a year later, that JP Morgan's already created their own version to essentially basically have the same skill set as a research analyst, right? Which is crazy. So that's how fast things can go. You got a new piece of technology, something else out there that can almost do something at the same level or even better, I guess, as well. So I guess, what's your thoughts on, you know, things like that happening, I guess, to like not only with companies like JP Morgan, but like other areas as well?
My first instinct is that's gonna happen. That is already happening. I guess JP Morgan being at the level and scale they're at, that story came out, but I don't think there's any finance company in the world right now that doesn't have automation replacing roles and skills. So specifically around roles that need data collection. So again, I think this is why I'm encouraging people to know more about automation and what it can do and the power of it, because then you not only know how to leverage it, which is key, but you start to pick up where can automation probably do elements of a job better than I can? Because there will be that, for example, research.
Mm-hmm.
And how can I start to pivot my skills to be on the other side of that? So
Yeah.
one thing automation can't do right now is be empathetic or easily build human connection trust.
Mm-hmm.
What are the roles that really leverage that, right? I mean, there's a reason I'm in consultancy.
Yeah.
There's a big reason why I'm positioning myself in consultancy.
I love that.
You have to be smart, but then
Yeah.
more maybe technical jobs on that side, right? You can't do the bare minimum of expecting high salary, high pivot, high. You need to be doing the next level of machine learning and AI, and more importantly, on the other side, how are you leveraging AI? So, for example, you said research. Many different roles. Research is key. Okay, how are you making sure that your research isn't at the ChatGPT level? Because that is something that quickly people will start to notice.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be like, this could have been done with GPT. What are you bringing differently? What's your thought leadership that's different? What's your perspective? You need to be leveraging it to do your basics and bare minimum. And actually, I have a hypothesis. That's the reason why the job market is getting more crazy.
Okay.
Because what would have been hard, maybe took you 2 hours to do, 3 hours to do, like a cover letter or changes on your CV, ChatGPT and these CV tools,
letting you just
you
do
can
it
do
like
it.
that. Yeah.
So you need to be positioned, like that needs to be like, okay, this is my baseline. Like that, I would encourage, especially in the job market, create your cover letter or your CV changes or your interview answers on GPT or chat AI. That's a basis. How do you then take it to that next level? You need to be looking at it, thinking, because that's where things are going.
Yeah.
This stuff will be now the basics. You need to think different. You need to do different
It's crazy
things.
that's the basis.
Do you
It's
do you
madness,
see? But
yeah.
that's people are using that as their best practice.
No, it's
no,
true. Yeah.
that's your basics. And
Use it
actually,
as
if you
their best
carry on
practice.
doing that, you're going to be left behind. Again,
Yeah.
that's the fear. I have to be honest. That's the fear that I have for many those I speak to. That it's the whole anecdote of madness. You're expecting different results, but you're doing the same thing you did 5 years ago.
Yeah.
No, but make it make sense. The world is moving so quick, and it's moved so quickly in 5 years. What are you doing differently? Ask yourself that question.
Yeah.
Like, ask yourself, especially in your career. Well, you're laughing. I'm being honest.
No, I know.
It's painful. Maybe
It is
sorry, I hope
painful.
I'm not triggering you, but
No, you're not. You're not triggering me. I like having honest conversations.
Let's be
and I
real.
think it's good to have these conversations because honestly, I think that people are not speaking enough about this.
No.
It's either they're not speaking enough about this or they have not noticed it. I don't know what it is.
That's scary. Wake up.
But it's the truth.
No,
right?
you need to wake
I mean,
up.
just
They
generally
need to-
speaking, like
we
nobody's
need to
like
wake up.
actually saying, "Oh, guys, by the way, the market is actually shifting. It's not the same as it."
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to say, right, is it's clear. It's like what you said. It's like I wouldn't even say it's a pre-COVID thing because ChatGPT, the AI thing, it's a combination. It is pre-COVID.
Yeah.
It is COVID. It is ChatGPT. It's just all these monumental things have happened one after the other.
Yeah.
And I think people haven't had the chance to actually look and be like, oh. Wow,
But can I be honest as well?
Yeah.
A lot of it's complacency.
It's yeah.
Especially those of us
That
who
is
have
what
been
can
in the
get you as well,
industry
yeah.
5 to 10 to
Yeah,
15
that's
years.
true.
A lot of it,
Mm,
and I think that's the biggest risk, is complacency.
mm,
You expect your current skill set and maybe a free course will be enough.
mm,
You need to be reimagining your skills.
Mm.
You need to be looking at your skills and thinking, how do I apply this in a new industry?
Yeah.
Can I apply it in a new industry?
Yeah.
If you can't, you need to be upskilling. You need to be trying out new experiences.
Yeah.
We cannot and we can't afford to expect a different result with the same approach.
Yeah. What other roles do you think that AI would have an impact on? Obviously, we talked about research.
Yeah.
I think research
Customer
analysts,
service.
customer service. Is there
So
any other
many.
areas that you think that it could have an impact on?
I think all
All areas.
roles
potentially,
will
yeah.
have some level and
Yeah.
extent of impact. That for sure. I know for sure the
Mhm.
data's there on there. But particularly, of course, those roles that are automated or can
Mhm.
be automated. So some of the manufacturing roles, I've seen levels of educational roles actually as well.
Okay, that's interesting.
Finance roles, legal roles. Interesting, these very high paying roles, automation, again, it's your choice. You meet at the forefront or you meet at the back foot, and you're struggling to keep up. And I know we spoke about this as well. You know, in some firms and industries, people think that this automation and all these difficulties are affecting the early and mid. You know, the Gen Z, millennial, and that's another another chat another day, I guess. But you think it's impacting those who are earlier on? Actually, it's really impacting the mid to later, because those guys aren't moving as quick enough and are being very complacent in the skills they built early in their career, which no longer are really serving the needs of customers or businesses anymore. So again, I think the biggest risk is complacency. No matter what stage you are in your career, you need to be looking at, are my skills future-proof? Are they aligning to the future of work? And you need to have that honest conversation, honest realization, and what did we say? Honest action to take in order to secure yourself, if I'm being honest.
Okay. On the podcast, we talk so much about progressing your career or getting a promotion or finding a new job. I really want you to get that bag. But how do you get that bag? One way is to level up your skills. I managed to develop my tech skills a lot by using this education platform called Coursera. They have courses from companies and universities like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Stanford, and more. I use Coursera to learn about AI, but you can also take courses on cybersecurity, project management, UX design, business analysis, software engineering, and so much more. And what I really like is that you can try out hundreds of courses for free or get started with a free trial. Coursera is currently running a limited time offer until the 30th of September, where you can get 30% off a Coursera Plus annual membership, which includes unlimited access to 7,000 plus courses, guided projects, and professional certificates. Click the link in the description of this episode to find out more. I hope you enjoy the rest of this episode. So I guess let's give people an insight, I guess, from your perspective. From your point of view, I would say as well, is what do you think the future of work looks like then?
Yeah. Well, number one, the future of work is easier. We all love soft life.
Yeah.
I'm a soft life
Are
fan.
you?
Yes, work. Okay, so I'll explain soft life.
Okay.
Soft life, you work hard. You work for your money. You work for the life you want. But ultimately, you create systems that make life easier, or you leverage tools that make life easier, especially as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So life is easier because the future of work are people, at least those that are thriving in the future of work. Let me talk about those people. Are leveraging these tools to help their job be a lot more easier, the mundane tasks, so they can do more thinking and innovation. Because especially in tech, why is it that, let's be clear, why is it that tech in firms and industry is the most investment heavy for these tools? Is because in order for them to stay relevant, they need to move and think fast, and that is equal to amount of time and effort being made and being taken by those who work in these firms. So they want to make it easier for people to think bigger. So leveraging the tools to make things easier. Of course, flexible working is going to become even more important. So, you know, firms shouting out to people that are hiring and thinking about this, you need to be thinking about making it easier for people to work in different locations. People don't want to just feel like 9 to 5, go to work. They want to feel like they can do work from anywhere as well. And I think apart from ease and I guess flexibility, I think the last thing I'd say is the future of work for us is we're not staying in one place. So again, that word flexibility is key. People are having those portfolio careers that, again, coming from our background, a Black background, our parents would have never even fathomed, where you can move from one industry to the other, one career to the other. That's where things are going. People want to be, life is short. They want to experience different areas of career, industry, and skill sets. And ultimately, with all those things, an easier workplace, flexible, being able to move around more, you're gonna have a lot more of a fulfilling future of work. Because work right now, when I say work, people, the feeling is normally a bit of pain, a bit of dread.
I don't want to do it.
It's like forced, but where we're moving, in those that will thrive are leveraging all these changes to create a much more fulfilling career.
I love that. I absolutely love that. So obviously we want to help people to stay ahead. So how can you make sure as an individual you are continuously evolving and you stay ahead of obviously the market so that you're not in a role that is at risk, or your skills are not at risk, let's say, as well?
Yeah, I'd say there's three things. Number one, it is all about self-awareness. I think if you're not reflecting, that's how people stay in the same job, hating it forever. And that's unfortunately the past. Like, that's what was normalized. Like, you're staying in a role because it's stable.
Yes.
But you hate it. You know you could be doing something else. You want to be doing something else. So the big thing, first of all, is you need to be aware. You need to be self-aware on where you have been and where you're coming from. So one thing that particularly gives me the ick, I'm going to say it as it is people I talk to will know that you have not changed at all in the last year or 2 years. Now, let me be clear when I say change. I'm not talking about you've changed careers or you're earning more by, God's grace you are. But you've not learned anything new. So the second thing I say is, with that self-awareness, you need to be actually internally doing the work.
Yeah.
You need to also be putting in the work. Obviously, tangibly, what is that like? Doing certifications. Every year I do a new certification, like a professional one at minimum. If you're not picking up new skills and new certifications, therapy is good. Therapy is good. People can do the work on themselves. That, for example, some beliefs that are stopping them from accessing the higher level. Or, of course, coaches. Get a coach to help you to navigate your next steps. And the final thing is intentionality. So with knowing who you are, where you're coming from, being honest with the practical things you can do, you need to put a plan in place and be intentional with that. Myself, I guess my background, I like to put things in place. I have like the Excel plan. I do that with my clients. We create that 90-day plan or that action plan. But for you, it could be on your iPhone notes, like go and speak to these people about this industry, or have a goal, have some kind of intentionality, because of course, people say that they fall into careers. And what do people mean by that? They probably spoke to a few people and found out something and went for it, or found themselves positioning themselves properly for it. They didn't fall into anything. You create your luck. You need to be intentional with where you're going with your career, or you do risk stagnation.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think, fortunately, unfortunately, I think, in our modern society, because that's what it is modern, where we have all this positive of, you can use social media, fast internet speeds. I can't remember what I was listening to. Oh, I think I might have been listening to my own podcast. I love that. Which is not the episodes. By the time you listen to it, that episode will be out.
Okay,
but
cool.
It was not to do even with careers. It's to do with health. And it's like when all these things converge, right? So, like I said, we've got fast internet speeds, we've got social media, you've got information passing along. I think just, unfortunately, things can change fast. Like the world changes fast. So therefore, I think for us, the one thing where I think a modern career is different to our parents' age career. I think in their career, I think it was quite normalized to be in companies for 15, 20 years, 10 years. Yeah. There was more stability. There was less disruption. Whereas I think in our era, there's more disruption. And if there's more disruption, it means you have to
move.
Change more, right? You have to upskill more. And I think we don't have enough of that conversation, which is why I'm happy we're having this conversation, because it's important. And I think I didn't even really realize, it didn't really click really until we're having this conversation. We had our conversation offline. And I was like, wow, actually, I've only been in a career for 10 years, but I feel like so much has happened in that 10 years. Like, I could talk about so much, and it's crazy actually. But if I compare it to, our parents' generation, previous generation, 10 years, if you stay at a company 10 years, that's light work.
Oh, you're just getting started.
Yeah, like, you shouldn't even be moving every 2 years.
Exactly.
What are you doing? So it's very important that I think we, from a career point of view, we do change with the times as well. And I don't think there's enough of that conversation happening. So I'm happy that we're having this conversation. I'm happy you're here guiding us with it. So obviously, let's talk a little bit.
I just want to say one thing. Yeah. Because you said, unfortunately, things change.
I said fortunately, unfortunately.
Okay.
Wait, did I say unfortunately? I said fortunately, unfortunately.
Because that's
Depends
a big
on when
thing.
you think about
That's
it.
a big thing.
Yeah.
It's a fortunate thing.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. That scares me to think of being in one place. And I think that's again, that's a mindset thing that not everyone has. People like to get comfy and get complacent. Personally, I don't want any of that around me, and I don't want to live a life like that.
Yeah.
If you want to, good for you. But I think change equals growth.
Yeah.
It's the prerequisite to growth. And if, like I said, if I'm not learning, I'm dying.
I love that. I love that.
Personally, I think it's great. I think it's a great thing.
I think it's fortunate.
Yeah, good.
Some
I
people,
thought you said unfortunate. Let's have a chat offline.
How can I be unfortunate? Hey!
Let's have a chat offline. Let's have a chat. Let's change that mindset real quick.
No, definitely not. Okay, so on a more positive note, obviously you mentioned a little bit about leveraging AI, right?
Yeah.
Is there any other ways people can leverage AI to excel in their careers?
Yeah, I think in your digital networking. So one thing that I've been encouraging my clients to do is use AI to find your cold hit list. Okay, some of the hit list, very important, I explain. There is no way, again, we have to think different. There's no way that applying cold for a job in this day and age is going to be equaling you getting to the next step very easily. You need to be different. So you need to be getting hiring managers' emails, hiring managers' LinkedIn's, and creating your hit list. Yes, I call it hit list because it's like a sales engine. Like let's be honest, as a job, you're essentially selling your time for money. So you are the commodity, you're selling yourself. So how are you making sure you're generating leads and then you're going towards actually closing the deal, right? Getting the offer. You need to have that generation of tracking who you need to reach out for the job. So use it to find out the hiring manager. Of course, use it to do the in-depth research, the awkward questions that you couldn't get on the website or on the YouTube of a company. But also use it to help you create videos. So one thing I would say is, and I guess it's something that's a bit out there, but I think people need to think about is, instead of sending cover letters and CVs, you need to be sending 30-second USP/pitch videos. And you can use great tools that can help you create that, whether it be CapCut or Latte AI. They're very good at editing your videos in a way that's quick, succinct, and getting to the point and giving you a good script to tell to that hiring manager. So I know a lot of my clients, actually 3 of my clients in the last week that have told me they've got the role, they use that approach. So use AI to create their script, the video, had a hiring manager conversation. 3 weeks later, they've got the role. If they're just applied cold, they probably would have been noticed, and they had the skills. I mean, they got the role. But what differentiated them from others was doing the video, going to find the hiring manager directly and getting themselves out there. So use AI to your advantage. People are doing it and getting jobs in 3 weeks.
It's crazy, right? Because like you said, like CapCut is great. You said Latte as well. That's another AI
yeah, I really
tool,
like
right?
it.
And then there's all these AI tools
So
out here that we
many.
can be using, right, to help, like you say, in that situation. That's very interesting, like a customized video.
You need
Wow.
You need to, again, you need to be doing different things to get different results. If you're complaining, okay, yeah, the job market's hard, okay, let's just think bigger picture. The world is difficult right now. Economically, there's a lot of struggles. Financially, cost of living, these are all real struggles. But there are people making money. There are people that are even making more money before these struggles became a thing. What have they done differently? They have leveraged pain points. They've leveraged gap areas that have arisen because of these difficulties and are driving value in that area. So in the job market, the issue that just a big thing I tell people to think about with finding a new role, get yourself into the mind of the recruiter. Their issue is there are more applications to jobs. That's the case.
Yeah.
So you need to make it easy for them to spot you and identify that you're a candidate. Sending long CVs and cover letters just does not do that. You need to get a video. You need to make yourself personable. Long are the days, before it was about who you know. And it is still that to an extent, but you can get to know people in that way. You can get yourself out there and you can create connections which equal your next big 6-figure job role. Yeah.
I love that. So we obviously talked a little bit of mindset. Fortunate.
Big. We need to be big with our words, guys.
Yeah.
Big. I'm big on that.
So you're very passionate about, you know, people seeing changes like AI, automation as an opportunity and not a threat. Let's talk more about that.
Absolutely. So I said some shocking figures there.
Mhm.
And so I'll hone in on one figure. So you can be on the side which is getting replaced by automation. So about 97 to about 100 million jobs will be automated. So those jobs will no longer exist or change significantly. Or you could be on the other side where there are jobs that are being created because of automation. Think about the fact that I'm going to use an area that I'm actually really interested in exploring. So I actually did my dissertation on this, which is the ethics of AI. You're going to need
Interesting.
people who
Yeah.
know AI enough and can help think about the ethical ways that it can be used and monitored. Very much a growing area, very interesting. So again, it's actually about thinking of it as a opportunity than a threat. I actually was reading, so the UK government did a report on the impact of AI, and interestingly, 30% of people only 30% of people trust AI, but 60%, 67% of people specifically see AI helping their role. Let's think about that. That for me is is very
It's like a
interesting.
30%
It's
gap,
it's
right?
like
There's
a paradox. So you know it's going to help you, but you don't trust it. It's for me. I don't know. I think that says it all. For me, it just shows why we need to think different. We need to. It's not about, and this is my thing. It's not even about trusting it more. It's about understanding. It's all about understanding. You only can trust what you understand. So that's my thing about thinking about this different. Instead of it being like the robots are here to get us, the robots are here, my friend. The robots are here. How are you leveraging these automated tools and robots in some people's language to help you? How are you using it to create opportunities for you? I mean, think about innovation, think about those that make money and those are entrepreneurs like myself. What have we done? We've spotted something different, we've spotted a problem, and we're using it to create solutions. It's the same way with how you look at change. Change can either be threatening if you're looking at something that keeps you down and you're at the back foot and you can stay there where you want, or you can look at it as an opportunity to move forward and push you to do things differently, i.e. them being at the forefront.
Yeah.
And that's where, again, we talk about, especially on your podcast, I've seen people are on this platform to know how to make money.
Exactly.
People are on this platform to know how to get that 6-figure. You're even playing it too small. With this AI thing, I'm telling you that there's 7-8-figure opportunities, but you need to be discovering and understanding it now than 10 years down the line when everyone gets it and you have the same level of understanding and you're par or even worse. You need to be at the forefront. You need to be getting that knowledge now.
Yeah. So important. And on that topic of change, let's talk about pivoting, because pivoting is something that I think people struggle with. And when we were speaking before we record this podcast, you told me about one of your clients that went from nursing to project management. What are the steps that your client took to achieve that?
Yeah. So the number one thing with a pivot is taking the time to know where you're coming from. So again, it goes back to the idea of navigating who you are and the skills and experiences that made you who you are. So I spent time with that specific client we're speaking about. She's a teacher, so she knows how to work with people and she knows how to do a whole lot of time management.
Yeah.
I mean, big teachers are the best for time management. Oh my gosh. They know how to take something that's not clear and make it clear to someone. So they're very good at synthesizing information. So again, and leadership, of course, you're leading a group of people. So all these skills are very valuable in project management. So a lot of that was the unpicking that and positioning. The second step is positioning yourself in the best way, whether it be on your LinkedIn profile, your CV, or in interviews, like knowing your story and being able to say it in a way that's convincing. And of course, as I've said before, intentionality. So we created an action plan and knowing her skills, her experience, we also identified gaps. So she knew her gap areas. She had to go on one of these like boot camps, for example, for project management, because a lot of the people that are applying for these roles have specific qualifications. So when you know your gaps and you know your strengths, you can play to that and you can also work on it, right? So all those things together, and of course networking, that's a big thing. So especially if you're pivoting from an area and you don't know anyone in the new industry, you need to be finding ways to be making connections so you can better understand that industry, but also your next opportunity can be because of that. And that's exactly what happened. She met someone on the boot camp that had a open entry level project management role, had worked with her on one of these like tasks and thought she's really good, and referred her, and she got the role 4 weeks later. So again, it's those four things I'd say. It's you need to know yourself. You need to then think about your gaps and your strengths and work on that. Third, have that action plan. And of course, that's why I love being a coach. I can help you to create that. You know, what will take you maybe 5 years to figure out, I can help you do in 50 minutes, right? That's the value. And then have a good network of people that can open your mind to the opportunities in the area you're trying to actually pivot into.
Yeah. And obviously for your client, I remember us having a conversation about the first 90 days. Why is that important for any
so
new job? It
important.
sounds like, what's it? The first 100 days of prime minister, first 100 days of a president. It sounds similar to that, to be honest.
I guess so. It's so important. So the first 90 days, and that's actually a service or something I provide that's quite different. So it was actually from my own journey with, of course, all these industries I've pivoted into. I have to quickly learn how to upskill myself, position myself for success. And statistically, it takes someone about 180 days or 6 months to actually know what their role is and start to add value to the company. Is the reason why, just to give people like a heads up, that's the reason why the job market's so hard. Right now, people are not really looking to hire externally. Internally is easier because of that, especially at the rate of change. But that's just a by the way. So that's why you need to, as an external hire or even internally as well, know how to quickly add value in the first 3 months. So it's a 90-day plan. It's actually a book that I read as well by Michael Watkins. And applying those principles of the onboarding, like knowing your success measures, knowing this type of stakeholders you need to know, like for example, the technical person, the historical person, the relationship person, that there's different people you need to like network with, and all of that in a framework that I often help people with. And I did actually help the lady in question, the one that pivoted into project management, can help you to get your first quick wins and get on top of your job quicker. And I mean, accelerate your promotion lifetime, right? Because that 6 months you're spending, and that's, I by the way, I'm not encouraging people to kind of not take that first, 3 to 6 months. You need to take that time to get into your role. But that first 90 days is where you identify what it is you need to focus on, instead of spending 6 to 9 months twisting in the wind and doing everything, but not doing anything at the same time. So that's what I'd say the 90-day plan is good for. Like just really quickly bringing your 0 to the 100 a lot more quicker in terms of your value in the role.
Yeah, amazing. So I want to talk about, we talk about knowing your value as well. And obviously that also helps inform, your income and increase your income. So I want to talk a little bit about that, right? So you've been coaching professionally for about 7 years, and you mentioned that you've helped clients increase their salary collectively by
4.5 million.
4.5 million, right? Thank you for correcting me on that one. So on that part, yeah, because I was gonna say 4 million plus, but 4.5 million, yeah. Like we love when somebody's there. You gotta get to the detail. So talk to us. How did you help your clients to achieve that?
Yeah, and the reason why I'm being so specific is because I always have to think about what is the impact of the amount of work I do, because I put a lot into what I do. And so just so I'm clear, your questions about how did you help them?
How
have I helped people? I mean,
in terms of that 4.5 million, how did you help them to increase their income?
Yeah, I mean, there's different ways that's come about. So it's either, there's so many use cases. So you can think about the pivot use case. So someone going from the current salary they're at. So, okay, let's take an example recently. So another example is a social worker that I worked with that now again, project management. I keep picking it, but it's a really good area to go into. So she wanted to go from social work to tech project management area or role. So she was earning about 35K in her role, and the jump she made took her to 78K specifically.
Wow, that's incredible.
So that is a way I help people as well. So pivot, of course, naturally there's people that also are not working at all. So also just getting your first salary. So obviously 0 to the first 60K job or 50K job. And another thing I've been doing maybe more in the last year, and I'm also sharpening as well in this area, is when you're on a roll, obviously trying to get that next pay rise. And there's different ways you can do that. People think it's like sitting in front of your boss and being like, I deserve 50% more. And like, yeah, that's one way. But there's also like new roles in your company. Like, again, I'm big on change, like not being afraid to just be like, okay, like I love this company, but I can get paid more in another department and just applying yourself differently. So those are some ways I've helped people increase their income.
Love that. And let's stay on that same bracket, right? I think it's, let me say conventional wisdom. Let me say conventional wisdom that people think in terms of increasing your salary. Let's say the range between 50 to 20%. Most people will say, okay, if you want that kind of pay rise, then it's probably better for you to move companies, right? Let's talk about, actually, instead of doing that, let's do that within the same company.
Yeah.
How can somebody go about, pursuing that within the company that they currently work for?
100%. That I feel is underrated. I actually don't know why people don't talk about that more. Like, you've entered into, especially the bigger firms, you've entered into a role, let's say it's, I don't know, customer success or customer service, but then there's salespeople that earn twice the amount you earn. Okay, so then I think that kind of starts to answer the question. First of all, do you know enough about your company? Do you know where revenue is being generated? If your area is not revenue generating, what areas are, and what are those roles that are driving it? Usually those roles, I'm just using like tech, are client-facing roles. So if you're in a non-client-facing role, you need to be thinking about those client-facing roles and how your experience could apply to those kind of roles. So know your firm. Second of all, speak to people. Like, I actually could scream this, but the amount of people that are sitting next to people, going for lunch, going for coffee and drink, they're earning twice the amount you're earning in that same firm that you're going to every day. You're shining your shoe, you're putting on your dress, and you're going to work. And it's a simple conversation. Simple conversation. By the way, just tell me, what's the range that you guys are earning? Just, you don't have to ask them for their specific. Say, okay, what's the range that your manager's earning? Just, do you have an idea? Get to know. Shine your ear very well and start to understand really what, and know, and honestly, do the research that way. You have the privilege of being inside, and you can compare that to your area, like the role above you. How does that compare to the role above in another area? Speak to people. I'm telling you, people are actually more forthcoming than you think as well. Obviously, people don't want to be forthcoming. You can go the official way and, like, I don't know, ask like a HRE or employee relation person, and they should be able to provide you a view. But speak to people. So yeah, number one, know your company and speak to people. And third of all, constantly know your value. So again, it goes back to self-reflection. You know your skills. What are the high income skills in that list that you have? Like, what are how are those high income skills applicable to areas of your business, or even within your role that should be getting more compensation for that? Like, that's how people do the whole, I need a 10% increase. It's not, I feel like I've been here long enough and I feel like I give so much. Look, everyone does that and everyone gives a lot to their role. That's bare minimum. They don't care about that. What specific skills are generating more value for that role and that team and widely that company? That's how you need to be thinking about getting a pay rise in your current role or in your current company.
Yeah. So you think that 15 to 20% is possible within the same company?
Extremely impossible. Of course, the natural thing people think
Not
is like
impossible,
promotion.
possible.
No, exactly. It's very, very possible.
Yeah.
And of course, people are thinking like promotion, which I think is, of course, but it's so narrow. I think that's such a narrow way to think. Like, I need to be like in my same role.
Yeah.
It's very back in the day thinking that I just need to be the ladder. There's that push that ladder. There's no ladder. The ladder is a web. It's more of a web, in my opinion. That's how I think about my career. How can I shift and move myself into the right areas that are making me learn, making me more impactful, generating value equals generating more income.
Yeah.
Like, I'll give a good example, actually. I won't name the person. She's been on your podcast. I love her. Shout out to her. So she was in a role which in my company was maybe like, let's say there's scale 1 to 10. She's maybe at scale 4. And then you have someone who I know is at scale 8. She was earning more than scale 8 for 2 reasons. She was a contractor, so she knows the value of contracting. 2, her skill set is so niche. So niche. You need to have had specific skills and experience to get it. But she's generating like 6-figure plus, whilst that person hasn't even reached 6-figure in that same company. So again, this person's been doing ladder, has been doing 15 years in the same company. She's come, maybe in 2 years, she's earning double his amount, or in the case, it's maybe like 40% more. But she's even lower. That's what I'm trying to say. Is people, we need to really rethink this idea of progression. Progression isn't just about going up that ladder. If you think of things like that, that's so mundane. Personally, I think if you think about your career in that way, in the next 10 years, you'll get to, by God's grace, you get to where you want. What then? Like, what actually happens then? So what are the skills and value points that you can be unpicking and demanding more income via that way? That's how people need to be rethinking things. Because you do hit a wall if you always think of things in a linear and ladder way. But if you're thinking of things in that value-driven way, when you produce value, know where the value is, and that applies for business owners as well. That's where you're hitting the next level of revenue and income.
I love that. And that takes me nicely onto growth mindset. That's so important, right?
So key.
Let's talk about the importance of a growth mindset and the risks that you face if you don't have one. If we haven't shed enough risk, by the way, if people are listening intently, I'm sure they'll catch on to some of it. But yeah,
I think obviously, I guess people, maybe you've picked up that I'm a big person on moving with change and risk. But by the way, I'm someone who I'll put my hands up. I find risk can be scary, scary, like risk and change. And change, look, change means uncertainty, and change brings a lot of fear. And it's something that I battle with myself. I'm not here, by the way, going, I'm just out here like making crazy moves. Like, I'm also someone that has like, my fears, and sometimes I'm uncomfortable, and that, I get in my own head with things. I struggle with that as well. But ultimately, those that I guess don't stay there are those that are going to thrive. How do you move past that? And that's where growth mindset comes in. So growth mindset was coined by an author called Carol Dweck. It's actually a book. And it's essentially the difference between those that look at failure as a positive thing versus a negative. So obviously when we've grown up, what's 1 + 1? You say 3. No, it's wrong. And then you get programmed to think that going the wrong way or not getting something right means you are a failure, or you get negative feelings. It's about reprogramming your mind to think, okay, this is uncertain. This doesn't feel right. I don't think there's any right answer here. It's a bit like question mark, but I'm going to go for it anyway. I'm going to fail fast. I'm going to learn fast. And if you think about the importance of that, again, we're going into the current age we're in, the amount of change. Like, I feel like we're just getting started, by the way. Like, sometimes it's a bit mad, but I feel we're just getting started with the amount of rate and pace and level of change the world is going under. That if you don't have that mindset, you're going to really struggle. Like, not just like career, money wise, you will really struggle if you're not having a growth mindset with that. But even just on a bottom line, like wellness wise, mentally, emotionally, if you're not someone that's adopting the ability to change and be comfortable with growth and uncertainty, then you will always struggle, and you'll always be in a place that there's more, but you're not able to access that. And for me, that's my biggest fear, actually. Like, living a life where I felt I could have done more, but I didn't try, or at least didn't move in that direction. Like, you always feel unfulfilled, So it's so important. It's deeper than just the income. The income is big, don't get me wrong, and obviously the levels you go to, but it's also just that genuine, like, I feel like I've done my best. I've lived this life to the full extent. You have to have a growth mindset to have that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's, you're right. Like, at the end of your life, do Do you want to live with regrets, or do you want to live with like a smile and be like, yeah, I achieved what I wanted to achieve.
Yeah.
I did what I wanted to do. You know, I think that is quite important. I feel like a lot of people do have those regrets sometimes, and it's because of fear. They're scared. They don't want to take the risk, and it's like you say. I think we all battle with it. I think some people think that, oh, that person that's taking risks, that they do have those fears. They just brace themselves for it. you just brace yourself for.
But it's also
you
like
know,
a
what it
muscle,
is.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Like the more you do take risks, the more you do face the uncomfortable, then you do get more used to the feeling and
Yes.
able to move past it. I don't know anyone, at least I'm being honest, the entrepreneurs I know, people that are also advancing their careers, that say, I haven't struggled with like self-doubt or feeling
All the time.
uncomfortable, but they didn't let that stop them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
And they've grown over time to realize that is a necessary part of their evolution to be uncomfortable, rather than it's a sign of I need to stop, because that's what I guess is stopping a lot of people.
Exactly. And yeah, fear is a big thing, so we don't want that to
thing.
happen.
It's not even godly. So
So let's talk about career plan. Why is it important for somebody to create a career plan, and what does that look like?
yeah, I'm so big on, as I've said throughout, like intention and a career plan. Again, I talk about it quite a lot. If you've seen me on other platforms or workshops, I talk about career planning a lot. And one thing I want to challenge is when people say career plan, they think, oh, this like Excel sheet thing that has like every milestone, and don't get me wrong, I think that still is really helpful, but it could also just be like a mind map. So taking the time to, there's a few steps to career planning. The number one thing is, what do I want? So what is it that you want? So figuring out that. The second level is the how. So how do I achieve that? And then the third level is obviously time bound as well. So that kind of, I think a lot of it is based on SMART goal thinking, making it measurable, actionable, everything. So career planning is like that. So let's say, for example, a good one is, let's use my client that went from teaching to project management. So her plan is, I want to transition into project management by the end of the year. So she came to me in about with May. So in May, she came to me. So she has an actionable goal. She's given herself time. She's, come to me to help her break down the how. And that's what career planning is. It's thinking like that. I think the bigger thing with career planning as well, and again, that's why I talk about reflection, is what is it that you really want? So that's quite tangible and short term. But in the long term, what do you really want? And again, that level above, and this is why I did a life coaching certification. What do you want your life to look like? Like what is that bigger picture? Is it, do you even want to be in the UK? Everyone's leaving the UK. I'm telling you, like, I feel like everyone, all my
I've
friends
had so
are
many
leaving me.
conversation on this.
I'm sure you in 5 years say, Vera, I'm going to Dubai. Peace. Like, everyone's no, but
let
for
me not
real,
reveal my
like,
plans.
Getting an inside scoop now, but but for real, like people are thinking, what is the life I want, and then how does my career connect to that?
Exactly.
That is the big thing, right? So it's, again, that what is a big question of, I'm talking very practical here and how I help people, but I do also question and think, if you could just vision, and we do a visioning exercise, if you can just imagine yourself in the next 5 years, what is it that you're doing? Like, what's the kind of life you're living? From the moment you wake up to the moment you get back into that same bed, what is it that you've done? How do you feel? What are those activities? And attaching that back to the things that they're currently doing, which a lot of the time is not aligning, and thinking about the careers and lifestyles that could be enabled by a particular move in their career choice. So, or an income move as well, of course. So yeah, is that wider what, thinking about the how, and then making it clear, like, by when do you want to do that? So it's a lot more accountable, and people can help you that way. If you have no timing for things, if it's hard for me or anyone to hold you accountable. So that's key as well.
So it's almost essential for all of us to have this career plan. Otherwise, we're just kind of like floating in the wind, basically.
Yeah, and look, I know people that also, especially the older guys, that don't do the career planning stuff, and they've, they make it to partner, director, whatever. But my question, exactly, the question here is, are you moving with the wind and, getting to that level, or are you creating the life you want? And that's my thing
Yeah.
about career planning. It's like with anything, without intention and planning, how do you expect to get what you want? And you know, I talk about the 3 C's, and you know, like you need to be consistent and intentional with something. Otherwise you settle for what life gives you. That also scares me a lot. So have some sort of idea. I'm not saying have an Excel sheet, and you don't have to do that. But even if it's like you journal it, or you maybe, again, be careful you speak to about your visions, but you journal with your partner or your close friend, like, this is what I want out of life. And you have that anchor that helps you make decisions, which helps you move forward in the life you want. That's really what effective career planning is, in my opinion.
Yeah. You said something so amazing that I really like. It's what you said. It's like, yeah, you float in the wind to become a partner, but what if you did want to become a partner?
Yeah.
Right? Just because you became a partner doesn't mean that you have the life you want.
Exactly. And
Right?
90% of the time, you know, I'm being honest, I'm talking about from my experience. I speak to very senior people and they're just like, I live for the weekends. Pardon, what? I live for the weekends?
Can you imagine?
I don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't want
That's
that.
so normalized. People think that's what a normal life should be. A normal life should not be that.
No, but for real, like, again, that's why I ask people to think about, how do you feel like in your ideal role, where you want to go?
Yeah.
Are you time poor and working to the bone? Because that's what a lot of these very senior, I guess, vanilla roles are, right? And again, that's why the future of work excites me, because hopefully where the mundane stuff is being done, life is a lot more efficient. You can spend more time doing things you want, whether it be time with your family or chasing your interests. Like, that's why I'm like very, I guess, motivated by the future of work. But equally in the current, if you're thinking about your career and looking at people around you, you're not being inspired, you need to think, I need to think differently. One big thing that my mentor told me is, if you're in a job and the people above you, like 5 steps, 3 steps above you, are not living the life you want, you need to run. Not walk or reconsider. You need to run, because that's what you're going for. Do you want to be that person that has no family, is lonely, is miserable, and life is... And if that's the life, by the way, I'm not saying that's wrong. If you want your life to be work and that's it, then please stay in that job and kumbaya. But if that's not what you want, you need to be thinking, what's going to give me that life? There's a reason I'm in business. There's a life I'm looking to get. There's a lifestyle I want for my family and my kids and my time and my health, that simply I don't believe just in working the corporate ladder role will afford me. I think you have to think differently.
And yeah, that's the thing, right? You have to plan your life. So love that. You briefly mentioned the 3 C's. So
Yeah.
what is the 3 C's, and describe what each one is?
Yeah. So the 3 C's for me is the formula to success. Every area of your life or successful goal that you've met has these three C's. The number 1 C is consistency. So you're being consistent in working to your goal. So let's take the goal of buying a property. So like myself, buying a property a few years ago. So I had to consistently learn how to educate myself and save. Of course, I needed to save and make money consistently. The second C of the 3 C's is community. You need to build a community of people that make your goal a lot more tangible and viable for you to achieve. So I quickly got myself into property groups. Shout out to Property Strategist. You know, I found myself listening to that community, that podcast, and just making friends and having conversations with people, having conversations about property, which make my goal, which is a big one, more real. And the final C is a coach, or for some mentor. So this is why I love being a coach. You need someone who has done that thing. So for me, I had, again, Property Strat, shout out to them. My friend Lamade Elizabeth, shout out to her. People that have got property, and they helped me answer questions that were a bit awkward or I couldn't find from just plain research. So people that could kind of coach me through the process. Now, if you think about any goal, and I'll ask you as well, like, think about any goal you achieved recently. Like, for example, you've got your nice family, you've got a nice, you're building a life. Thinking about the things that you're doing to build that life yourself. These 3 things are going to help you get there, or have helped you to get to where you are.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
community, a coach, and consistency. Like those are the 3 building blocks. And also I was thinking it works in the reverse.
Okay.
If you think about things that are not going well, those 3 things are lacking, or one of those 3 things are lacking, or these 3 things are the reason why you're not where you want to be. Let's think about this.
Okay,
Let's
okay.
break this down. So again, the property buying thing. A lot of people want to buy property. Number 1, you've not even invested in any sense of coach or mentor to help you think about getting your next property or your first property. You have no sense of that. Second of all, you're chilling with people that have not even saved £1,000 in the last 5 years. You're chilling people who are going out every night, going on expensive holidays, are actually in debt. Your community's wrong. And third of all, consistency. The last time you saved significantly was for your birthday. You've never saved more than 5K.
Yeah.
How on earth do you expect to get a property? So this is what I mean. It works in reverse as well.
Yeah.
So it's a really good way to think about how you build success. Those are the foundations of a successful goal being met.
I love that. I love the 3 C's. So what can one hope to achieve with all these 3 C's? You gave your example, actually, a fantastic example of you being able to get yourself onto the property ladder.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank
It's a
you.
big achievement.
Big
I love when
achievement.
people are able to, especially something like that, because I know it's so tough to do that. But what can one hope to achieve with, the 3 C's in their corner?
Yeah, I think, as I've said there, you're able to go from I want this to this is my life, or this is something I have. And I make it seem this simple because it is. I'm not saying that there aren't other factors out of our control that can make achieving a goal difficult, but there are so many factors which are in our control that can help us to move closer to it. I'll use another example. Let's say, for example, you do want to save, I don't know, end of this year, you want to save 10K, and you've been consistent. You've got the community of people, that are helping you to stay accountable to your saving goal. You've got maybe a finance coach as well. But for some reason, something comes out of the blue. You didn't achieve that goal. But one thing you did achieve is you know how to achieve that goal. And even though you may not have achieved it by that time frame, you'll eventually achieve it. Now, again, we go back to that point of action. A lot of people are watching people live the life they want and are not taking actions to doing it. Those 3 C's give you a good formula and framework to how you to go from watching the dream job or dream saving or dream house TikTok or video to actually moving closer to actually achieving that for yourself. So it's basically helping you be clear on what are the actions I need to take to get the life I want.
Lovely. Fantastic. So I want to end the podcast on this career confidence, right? Which is like, that's your brand, right?
Yeah, it's my ministry.
So, I love that. So how can someone go about building their career confidence?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I'd say is just having that awareness of who you are. And I literally sometimes I get emotional about this. I'm not going to cry here. I'm an emotional person. I'm not going to cry. But my heart aches that there's so many people on this earth that don't know their value and don't know how amazing they are. It all goes back to, you have strengths. Yes, you have weaknesses. And unfortunately that gets touched on too much, I think, especially in the workplace. But you have so many strengths which make you uniquely brilliant. No one can be you. So the biggest thing with career confidence is reinforcing that understanding of who you are and making sure that the way you show up in your career is highlighting those strengths and that value constantly, that you're feeling recognized for that, you're putting yourself out there, that these are my strengths, this is how I add value. And of course, you're getting the money to match that. Let's be really clear, because obviously you can be doing a lot of work and feel very resentful. So career confidence is that. It's, I know who I am. I may not know every single step of my way, but I am living authentically in my strengths and applying myself where I am and where I'm going to be next. And that's bringing me closer to what I'm here on earth to do. In my opinion, like, we're all here to serve a purpose. And if you're confident in that and navigating in your career, then for me, that is the ultimate level and version of career confidence.
Love that. Absolutely love that. We all need to be career confident.
Yeah, we do.
I love that.
It's the foundation.
Yeah, it's very, very important, especially as you mentioned. Again, it's all about living a life that we want on our own terms, and I think that's very, very I think that is a message that I love to have on the podcast, because it's like you say, people are living one life, but they want this life, so just pursue it.
I know
Just
that
go
it's, look,
for it.
I'm not downplaying how difficult that is, but this is the
Yeah.
thing, it all starts with you. Like, it starts with the person first.
Mm.
So many people are using external circumstances as the reason why they're not where they want to be.
Mhm.
The world is tough. They think the system is out there to get them. You're staying stuck. You need to break out of that thinking. You need to think about how you position yourself best, how you, in the current circumstance, move forward, rather than use that as an excuse. And I think that actually is exactly what differentiates those that are going to be successful versus those that are not.
Yeah.
You know, I know a lot of people listening to this, and, you know, personally, we want to earn well, we want to live the life we want. But the difference between you who won't get that and you who will is audacity. The belief that no matter what is currently going on in the world, or all the obstacles that you face, those will not be my blockers. Those will not be my excuse. I am going to move forward. I'm going to leverage AI. I'm going to leverage my network, build my network. I'm going to pivot. I'm going to make it. I'm going to do what I can in order to achieve my goals and the life I want. Like that is the difference. Is that true belief? That for me is that's what career confidence is, right?
Yeah. Amazing. So be a career confident. So you support people in their careers. So I know that you do one-to-one. You also provide digital resources to running workshops at organizations as well. Do you want to talk to us more about that as well?
Yeah, so the best way to connect with me is through my website. So you can find me on career.confident on Instagram. The first thing, of course, is the community. So join the community. It's a great one. We're very open. I do Instagram lives, and I love to connect with my community. That is something I love so much. Of course, people want that dedicated help. So I offer services like one-to-one, whether it be have no idea what to do. So I have like an intro navigation session, to interview sessions, to, again, like you said, the 90-day session. So I really love helping people end to end. A lot of my clients, I'm working with you from wherever you are now to getting into your job and succeeding. And I stay in contact with all my clients as much as I can. And it's again, I've seen people move careers with coming back to me and helping them pivot. And, you know, I'll say one of my favorite case studies, I met someone in 2022 now, and he's been able to pivot twice in his career, and he went from earning about 35k, he's now earning 85k in 2 years. And it was just the way that I've really, I won't say it's all me, obviously it's a lot of his work and a lot of effort from him, but the joy of being able to help you with the tools and frameworks. Again, that's what a coach is good for, is helping you to frame like your next steps and how to access that next level. So love it. So that's one-to-one. I, of course, have digital resources. So those that just want to get that help just by reading, like ebooks. I have like free resources as well as paid for ones. So you can get digital resources via my website, www.careerconfident.co. And of course, on a wider scale, what I love to do on the third thing is workshops. So I do work with organizations, companies, universities. So even my university, doing speaking events, going out there, inspiring others, talking about careers, also specifically D&I within careers as well. So how do we make that more of a bigger move in different industries, particularly in tech and finance? And yeah, I love doing that as well. And I have so many coming up in September, October. I really enjoy helping those who need that help and maybe don't have the confidence to just connect with me one-to-one, because I know it takes some confidence as well. And I can reach out to you and we can have that, you know, more group session. So I love doing that as well, those workshops.
Amazing, Vera. It's been such a great conversation today with you. And I think really the theme really is I think all these opportunities, they're not easy. We know that they're not easy. I don't think we can ever say that on the podcast. You know, we try to be as honest as possible, but at the same time, it's attainable.
Definitely.
Right? We're not saying it's easy, but it's attainable. So if there's a certain life you want to live, if there's a certain career that you want to have, you can have it, but you have to put the action behind it, right?
That's right.
You know, I like the 3 C's because I think the 3 C's is super important. You know, especially the coaching aspect. I think that's having that guidance is important. If you think of anything in your life, even if you think of like your career, right? You have your line manager.
Yes, exactly.
They're told,
exactly.
so their head, that's somebody helping you. Imagine you didn't have that person.
Exactly.
You know, you would struggle. So it's very, very important. You know, like I said, I'm mentoring somebody, right? As part of my old university. Why am I doing that? Because I've gone ahead of them. I can just pass all of that onto them. So yeah, coaching is so important to it. So do you have any final words for watchers and listeners?
I just say, honestly, no matter where you are now, no matter how stuck you feel, maybe, you know, things have been tough in the last, let's say, 5 years. Take heart. Change is good, and move with it. Move with the uncertainty. Move with the difficulty. It honestly could be your next breakthrough. Genuinely.
Love that. Thank you so much, Vera. Thank you. Really appreciate you featuring on the podcast and sharing all your insights and gems. I really, really enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Vera.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the podcast, and see you next week's episode.